What up, KDMculture PH fam? It's your boy Jag, aka vipcars, back at it again with another banger. And for today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 5 pros of owning an air suspension system for your vehicle. Of course, based on the 6 months that I've owned it so far. And I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a quick breakdown of the 5 things that I feel like are the most beneficial, or the pros of owning an air suspension or an air ride system for your vehicle. So with that being said, let's get into this intro and I'll get back to you guys in a little bit, alright? Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about the 5 pros, what I believe are the 5 pros of owning an air ride system for your car. So let's get into it. So the first one I want to start off with is practicality. Nowadays, having an air suspension system is more practical than ever, really. With the horrible road conditions we've got, the 2-foot speed bumps, the crater-like roadways we have to take our cars on a daily basis, sometimes having the ability to tackle these types of issues and being able to sort that out with the press of a button is such a convenience. So whether that's going over steep driveways, going over dips and potholes, you can get that sorted out with just the press of a switch, the press of a button, and you can lift the car up. As soon as you go over the speed bump, you can bring it back down, and once you get over that obstacle, you can go ahead and set your preferred ride height again, so that way you can get back to rolling and looking cool with your car being lowered, and not having to worry about the speed bumps, the uneven roads that you take your car on. Of course, for potholes, I always still recommend going over them going around them, I should say, instead of just going over them. And like I said, it's fast, it's easy, it's convenient, and honestly, I do believe that it's practical for this day and age to have a system like an air ride system on your car. It's not just for shows, and it's not just for looks anymore, you know what I mean? It's more practical than ever. For number 2 of the pros of having a air ride system is, of course, it looks aesthetically pleasing. It just looks cool when you have the car slammed or lowered to the ground. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure other car enthusiasts out there can relate that when you hear that psh noise, of course, you're going to be turning heads and breaking necks everywhere you go as you see the car slowly lowering itself to the ground. For me, I feel like that's an ASMR for fellow car enthusiasts. Every time you go to a car show or a car meeting, you hear that, and you see the car lowering itself to the ground. It's a sight to see, I want to say. You know what I mean? I find it fun to look at. So, like I said, hey, it's very cool to look at. It's very aesthetically pleasing, and it just looks super cool having the car aired out and lowered. So, I mean, I want to say that a lot of people like looking at that. Of course, for just for aesthetic purposes. You know what I mean? You look at a car that's stock height, and you look at another car next to it that's lowered. Of course, people are gonna, I want to say 8 out of 10 times they're gonna appreciate the lowered car a little bit more. So yeah, like I said, that's number 2. It's just cool to look at, and it's aesthetically pleasing. All right. So for the third benefit of having an air ride system in your vehicle, I want to say, is it puts the flex in flexibility. So with that being said, what I mean by that is being able to adjust your car on the fly while it's on the go as well is in a flex in itself. It makes the car very versatile to be able to adapt to the certain road conditions depending on where you are driving. Of course, being able to lift the car up and down on a touch of a button is a flex in itself. Chances are the majority of people that are around you or that are driving with you does not have the ability to be able to lift and lower the car that they're driving at the touch of a button or at the click of a button. So I believe that that's a huge advantage, and that in itself is a flex factor. So it's not just for showing off, like I said earlier, or for looking cool, but realistically, Air Ride's flexibility and versatility is, I believe it serves a greater purpose nowadays, and it's more conventional than ever when it comes to driving your vehicle. Hey, like I said, having to go over a speed bump or a steep driveway with adjusting your vehicle's ride height with a touch of or press of a button is very convenient, and hey, like I said, that in itself is a flex. So it puts the flex in flexibility. So that's what I got for number 3. Okay, all right, so the fourth thing we're going to talk about and the benefits of having the Air Ride system is the improved ride quality. Now I want to say, prior to me installing or having the Air Ride system installed on my car, I used to ride on cut springs first on the front, and then I eventually upgraded to a adjustable core sleeves on the front, and I left the stock or the rear springs alone. But with that type of ride, the car is very bouncy. Sobrang tagtag niya. So it wasn't exactly the most comfortable ride setting or ride you can have for your vehicle. It looks cool because it's a little bit lowered, but at the end of the day, it's very bouncy. And if you have other people in the car, it could get a little bit of it could be a little bit of an annoyance for them. Instead of just being a comfortable ride that they're hoping to get on, it's a little bit bouncy. So I want to just get that out of the way. And then once I finally got the air suspension installed, I was able to retain the feeling of riding in a stock car again because of its flexibility and adjustability. I was able to lift the car up as a stock height, so if I had passengers, if I had a fully loaded car, I'd have I'd ride around with 3 fingers all around gaps, so that way they can have a comfortable ride. And if I'm by myself, hey, I'll probably just drop it down to like 1 finger all around, so that way I can just cruise low and slow. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, the flexibility, I can choose to lift the car up and ride like a monster truck if I wanted to. But of course, that depends on the situation and if I got passengers, if I'm loaded, and that sort of thing. But you see what I'm saying with the flexibility and the versatility of it, and of course the improved ride quality. Now if I wanted to lower the car and lower the center of the gravity of the vehicle, so that way I can turn make I guess the handling slightly better by lowering the car. There's less body roll as the car is not as high as it usually is. So if I want to handle turns a little bit better, I mean, it's not like a race car or anything, but I'm just giving a scenario. If I have the car lowered, it's not as bad as when you're turning. The body roll is not as bad as if you're riding a little bit higher than usual. But yeah, having the car lowered definitely helps with the center of gravity, less body roll, better handling, and I can do all of that adjusting with the press of a remote, click of a switch, and my preferred ride height, given the circumstances, is set easily, whether that be with unfamiliar roads or with roads I'm familiar with. I can adjust it on the fly and on the go, and the ride quality is just, I want to say that it's a lot better than when I had springs and even just the stock ride. You know what I mean? I do believe the Air Ride is a little bit better. I want to say that you're riding on clouds, but of course that depends on the scenario as well, on how much PSI you got on your bags. But for the most part, I just want to say that it's a lot better than having stock suspension, based on my experience. And I've only had the air suspension for 6 months, and I've enjoyed it so far. And yeah, Air Ride quality is a lot better than stock quality, right? So hey, you get your money's worth with the Air Ride system. So yeah, that's number 4. All right, and last but not the least, the 5th thing I want to talk about is its affordability. Nowadays, I want to say that air suspension systems are more affordable than ever. Of course, that still depends on your definition of affordable. Some people would prefer to spend the basic system on a set of coilovers because it usually costs about the same. Some people would prefer air suspension instead. So now, of course, do your own research and make sure that Air Ride is for you. But like I said, air suspension is more affordable than ever. There are plenty of shops that offer a lot of price ranges from your basic system that'll range anywhere from 45 to 50K, 50,000 pesos, all the way up to your premium, your top tier systems, which will run you about 150 and up. You know what I mean? So there's something for everybody depending on the budget that you are working with. With that being said, I still recommend that you do your own research about the shops and the packages that you are looking to avail, to make sure that you are getting your money's worth, you're getting the best bang for your buck, and to make sure that you're going to be happy with the air ride system shop that you choose with to have your system installed, and to make sure that everything works flawlessly and everything is, you get your money's worth at the end of the day. Now, of course, personally, I vouch for Concept Air Suspension and Fabrication. They're the ones that installed my system. They're the ones that's been taking care of me, in the last 6 months. Any small issues, gremlins I've had with the system, they were able to take care of that quick. So I want to commend them on their after-sales support. Like on my last video, I always tell them, hey, when it comes to the installation, the quality of parts being used, their after-sales supports, I can't complain. They're really, really good at that. So I want to commend the shop for that. And just give them a quick shout out. And of course, saying those things, those were the key details that make me always refer the shop to my friends or to just random folks that are curious to see on, if they ask me on where I got the system and where I got it installed. I'd always recommend Concept, since they're the ones that's been hooking me up and taking care of my ride. And of course, I always recommend that you, of course, ask around, do a little bit of shopping, inquire, ask a lot of questions. Don't be shy. You're going to be dropping a substantial amount of money for an air ride system. You don't want to just take somebody's word for it. Take my word for it. You know what I mean? Ask other people that have air ride systems installed on their cars as well, and perhaps from different shops, to get feedback from them directly. So that way you have a little bit more, I guess you could say, a little bit more knowledge about other shops, about the services they offer, the packages they offer, if they're good with the after sales support, their installation, that sort of thing. So like I said, always do your own research. You know what I mean? Don't just take some guy you see online. Don't just take his word for it. I always advise people to do their own research at the end of the day. And of course, that way you can get recommendations as well from other people besides, just a random guy besides me. You know what I mean? And, doing that, I think it will help you in making the final decision on which shop, what type of air ride system you're going for. And, it'll help you decide and make the final decision, as long as you do your homework, you do your own research. And that's where you'll find out if spending that type of money on an air ride system is what's best for you and your car. And like I said earlier, some people prefer to spend that money on coilovers instead, and because they do cost about the same price range nowadays, of course, for the basic air suspension system. And the coilovers would range around that price range of anywhere from 40 to 50,000 pesos. So that depends on where you're what your type of build or what kind of build you're going for. So unless you want to be a big baller and get both, you know what I mean, get both the best of both worlds with the coilovers and have the air suspension replace the spring. I mean, hey, if you're just a big baller, do that. You know what I mean? But for us common people, for the regular folks out there, you know what I mean, do your own research. Hey, there's a lot of shops out there that offer very basic packages for good money. I want to say for very affordable. And there are ones out there too that are up there, and that are still affordable to other folks, depending on your budget. Like I said, depending on what type of money you're working with. Those are the 5 things that I want to say are the pros of having an air suspension system. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Share your thoughts, leave a comment below. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. Or if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. It doesn't cost you a thing to support your boy. And as always, I appreciate it. You guys, thanks for tuning in. And on the next video, we'll go ahead and do the cons of having an air suspension instead. Some of the bad things. I don't want to say the bad things, so that's a strong word. But some of the cons of owning an air ride system. So I'll see you guys on the next one, alright? Like I always say, treat yourself, don't cheat yourself. It's your boy Jack signing out. KDMculture PH. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace!
Waking up anew.